Okay, sir, you can introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Petcu Alexandru. I'm a tattoo artist from Romania, and I have been tattooing for almost 9 years.
So you're tattooing for 9 years. So how did you get into tattoos? How did you get, not in tattooing, but how did you find out that tattoos is something you're interested in?
I have been hanging with some older guys, like my brother's friends, and they had some nice tattooing on them, and they saw me that I was drawing a lot, and they pushed me to try tattooing.
That's how you got into it.
Yes. Yes.
Cool. And how did you start in tattooing? How did you learn?
I started tattooing. I started getting interested in tattooing after I got my first tattoo at 16 or 17 years old, and it seemed like a nice ritual. And I started putting a lot of questions to that guy and started to learn about tattooing.
In your country, yeah?
Yes, in Romania. Yeah.
Was it legal?
I think tattooing in Romania never been legal or illegal. It's just like a gray part of the Romanian reality.
Cool. Yeah, so how did you learn?
I have learned tattooing by asking a lot of questions to this guy. His name is Raresh. He's also an artist back home. And he was kind enough to teach me and shared his knowledge. I started buying tattoo magazines from all over the world. Whatever I could find in Romania was like second-hand stuff. And reading books and some other fellow artists who were nice enough to share their stuff.
What year was that?
2001.
What was the learning options? It's talking to people, magazines, books?
The learning option was trying to get your hands on whatever you can find, like books, magazines, or DVDs, but that was later on, DVDs and movies with other artists working.
What's the style you're working in now?
I'm working now realistic approach, but more painterly, artistically. I'm taking painter lessons back home, and I'm trying to be more realistic and colorful.
What led to that style, and what styles have you tried? And
I have gotten to try this style after I started taking lessons with the art teacher back home, and he introduced me to seeing color in such a different manner that made me think that maybe I can apply it into tattooing, and whoever gives me the trust, I'm trying to tattoo in that style. I have been trying all sorts of tattoo styles, being a resident in a couple of tattoo shops back home, and I was needed to try different styles, and I like that approach also.
So from when you started, yeah, how things have changed, like what's the evolution? Start with styles. What's the evolution in styles, for example, for you?
That's a tough question. Let me think a bit.
Because I know many people tried, like, first of all, like, I don't know, tribal, then it's all
I
this.
did a tribal. I think when I started tattooing, I was trying to be happy whatever I could get my hands on tattooing. So I was doing like lettering, and I think I did like 3 tribals in my whole career or stuff. But I was happy to do them because I was so curious, and it made me really happy to see what's going on there.
How did it end up where you are now?
The evolution of the styles I went through was mainly based on the place where I was working back there. And I started like 16 years ago. I started working at home with my friends, and I had a lot to say about their designs. But when I started working in tattoo shops and paying my own rent and traveling and having to take care of myself, stuff started to be different. I mean, I had to do some tattooing to be able to live, and then I tried to be more artistic, and my styles were changing all the time. I started being happy to tattoo all the things I could get my hands on, and now because lately I'm trying to evolve my artistic skills, drove me into changing my tattoo styles as well. I really enjoy realistic, and I'm aiming to do a realistic style.
What's your situation now, and what's your future plans like?
My situation now is that I've been a resident back home in a tattoo shop, and I stayed there for 2 years, and now I'm trying to go back on the road and travel a little bit. I think I need to interact with other artists and trying to expand the way I see tattooing.
And that's also your future plan, yeah, to expand?
My future plan is to try to be more confident in my work and trying to settle on a style that I really want to do, and trying to be more artist, doing my homeworks and doing more art that could be interpreted as tattoos.
And like for learning for yourself, what do you find best way, like working with other people, teaching, like learning in the lessons, going to tattoo conventions, or what's your learning ways?
My learning ways have been different because I've been trying to learn tattoo technique in some periods of time. Then I felt like I was lacking artistic skills. Now I'm trying to go back on the learning about painting more and colors, and I think the best way is to experience stuff. So meeting people also is a good way to learn. That's why I'm traveling again, but also studying at home.
For example, if somebody is considering tattooing or just starting tattooing, what would you recommend to new artists? What's the best way to go for it?
I think the best way to go in tattooing is having a good, solid artistic background and knowing drawing. Then I think tattoo technique is easy to learn.
In your experience, because like the 16 years is a long time, what's been like? Is there some things that you find out about tattooing, about styles, about hygiene, about techniques, that in the beginning you thought like, oh, this is bullshit, and now you're like, oh, this is a real deal?
I started tattooing at home under my parents' roof, and my mother was she knew about it, my father knew about it, and my mother really pushed me to be really careful with hygiene, and she helped me with that. It's definitely a lot to learn, but I was careful with hygiene from the beginning. I think learning to talk with clients and trying to make them see your way, that is the style that I learned or needs to be learned.
So that's like explaining of why things are.
Yeah, you need to be a psychologist and a tattooer, right? And an artist. So you can make them change their minds about that design they found on the internet, or you know how it is.
Very good. Yeah. Very good. For tattoos for yourself, when you see some tattoo, what's like the shit? What's the real deal tattoo for you? When you see something, you're like, wow.
When I see a good tattoo, and what I consider a good tattoo is something that is unique, an image that I never saw, and you can see that it's not inspired from. It comes from creativity, and it is a good technique, right? It's a good placement, a good.
If we have to divide creative and technique, what would you think is more important? Like original piece?
I definitely think if you divide creative and technique as tattooing, I am I'm more inclined to creative stuff. I mean, if you see a good tattoo, a good placement, but it lacks in some parts as tattooing, like some fallout parts or not some straight lines or such straight lines, but it's still an image that says something and sends emotion, I think it's also a good stuff, right? Doesn't have to be just like a sticker or a good technique.
For your designs with your customers, how do you design your stuff? What's your creative process creating a tattoo design?
My creative approach is starting to change now, but I'm trying to find the right theme. Maybe I get a theme for a tattoo or a project, and I'm trying to get inspired from some artworks or some pictures, and I'm starting to draw after those pictures and see wherever it leads.
So like if customer comes in, they say I want this or that, you have like consultation and all that, and then you just flow,
Yeah, I start to draw and show the customer some sketches. They say no, I say okay, I start drawing again, they say no.
And what's your favorite kind of customer?
My favorite kind of customer is a person who did his or her homework, and they know and they like what I do, and they come with a really distilled idea about what they want, not all those messy ideas thrown there in a small tattoo.
For them people who are looking for their first tattoo, so what would you recommend? How to choose design and how to choose artists to go to?
I think the best way to get your tattoo is try to look at different artist portfolios. Try to go and meet them if you have time. Then try to introduce your ideas to the chosen artist, and definitely listen to him, see what he says about it.
Cool. And about design, what would be like, what's a no for the first tattoo and what's the good way? What's the good way to choose it?
Ooh, tricky.
Maybe in your experience you have some things that you have to cover up often or something like that, or what people get and then they're like, oh yeah, you were right, I should have listened to you or something like that.
I would say no to tribals in the first stuff, and I would say no to big projects on people who do their first tattoo.
And why is that?
Because it's I think big projects are a big commitment, and you need a lot of time, and you need to be sure that you can get involved in something like that. So you don't get to have a big project in a long period of time when the artistic continuity is lost.
So you're traveling, you're doing some guest spots, you're working in your country. Is there a difference between your country and rest of the places in tattoo culture and attitude and all that, or not really?
Not really. Romania is catching up. A lot of tattoo shops are opening and a lot of good artists are getting involved. I've seen some good art students, and I think Romania is catching up fast.
How can people find you?
If you want to see what I do, I think you can find me on Facebook on Alex Petcu artist page, and Smart Thumbs on Instagram.
Is there any shops you want to mention, or where you work, or you're just traveling and you are?
I'm traveling. I don't think shops is gonna. Yeah. In my opinion, shops are just should be a place where artists get and.
No, it's just many artists have their permanent shop in their country, and then they go every now and then for guest spots. So.
No, I believe tattooing should be more collective stuff. Back home, Romania now in tattoo scene is mainly guys who open shops and they don't tattoo and they see it as business, right? And there are a few tattoo artists who owns their own shop. So that's why I don't know. I don't have to. I don't
Very
know how
good.
to say it.
So, considering this climate when tattooing is so popular and there's shops owned by tattooers and commercial shops. So what would you say for client and for tattooist? What's the difference going to one shop or to another?
The difference for a client that goes to a tattoo shop or a street shop or a private shop where owned by an artist, right? I think street shops are a good way to see tattooing when you see it as a collectible and small stuff and lettering and tourist tattooing and
Kiosk.
yeah, stuff like that. It's good and it brings some good money to some big artists, right? Tattooers. But for me, I think to get a good tattoo is to go to a private shop, but that's different, right? That's it's more artistic, and it brings different stuff into the value. Yeah, it brings different stuff to the value of the tattoo. I've been working in a street shop and I've been working in private shops also, and okay, you need money and you're an artist also, but I think it's good to go in street shops, right? I've been working in some and I got so fast after I was working in them, got so fast tattooing and it was a good stuff.
Yeah, I think street shop is good experience
It's
for
good
every
experience. I
artist.
think everyone should go once in their lifetime, maybe more, right? Or maybe if you want to take an early break, go there a month and that's it.
Yeah, I don't have anything to ask anymore, but it was very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, man.